question. Has anyone here ever heard about codes in the Torah? Yeah, okay. Question number 2. Is anyone like a little bit skeptical about codes in the Torah? Yeah, okay. Before we start then, let me ask a question. And it goes like this. Why would I even think to start to look for codes in an ancient Hebrew text? I mean, it's a little strange if you think about it. As I open this ancient Hebrew text and let's look for codes. Why would you even start to look for codes in the Torah? Does anyone have an approach to that? Anyone have an answer? Yeah.
If you believe that God wrote the Torah and you think that it has all this knowledge, then of course you're going to try to find it.
Very, very good. Okay, if it's true, God wrote the Torah, I'd expect to see a little bit more depth in this book than just a bunch of nice stories and a bunch of laws. But it goes even further. Look, if you guys would give me about 5 minutes, and I'm not going to do this, but let's say you would, I'd run downstairs, it's a fairly new building, I'd come back here with a big piece of paper, I call it a blueprint. Now I'd stick this blueprint on the table and I'd look at the blueprint and I'd say, window, 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 yeah, window, 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 door over there, yeah, door over there, door over here, door over there. In other words, this entire room is encoded on this piece of paper I call the blueprint. Question, what came first, the room or the blueprint?
Blueprint.
The blueprint. That's why I'd start to look for codes in the Torah. In the 1940s, there was a rabbi named Weissmandl. Reb Weissmandl, he's very famous because of all the kids he saved in the Holocaust. But he heard about this stuff, and he said, you know what, I'm going to try it out. So what did he do? He decided to look for something very simple, very, very simple. He decided to look for the code Torah in the Torah. So what did he do? He noticed something very interesting. If you start with the very first book of the Torah, Bereshit, the first book, he noticed that what? If you start with the first Taf in the book of the Torah, skip 50 letters, you get a Vav, skip 50 letters, you get a Resh, skip 50 letters, you get a Hey. When it says 50 here, that means between every single letter, there's a 50-letter skip. All of a sudden, what I do, I have a code Torah in the Torah. Question, is this proof there's codes in the Torah? Why not?
Anyone could do that.
Yeah, look, does anyone know how many letters long the Torah is? The Torah is 304,805 letters long. Is there any wonder that somewhere in this book, it's some sort of skip, I'm going to find the word Torah? What do you guys say? No, I could probably find the same thing in the Jerusalem Post. Look, if I open up a copy of the Jerusalem Post and I look for the first P, skip 50 letters O, 50 letters S, 50 letters T, Post, would I conclude someone is putting codes in the Jerusalem Post? What do you guys say? No. All right, so he went on. He found something else very, very interesting. He noticed that in the second book of the Torah, he found 4 words in a row, and these 4 words spell out Rambam. Rabot Mavtai Be'eretz Mitzrayim. 4 letters of each first letter of each of the words, 4 in a row, you have the code Rambam. The Rambam, by the way, was one of those greatest sages in history. Question, is any surprise that I'm going to find 4 words in a row that spell out the word Rambam, the first letters? What do you guys say? By the way, the Torah is about 80,000 words. Does it surprise you guys? No. However, I don't know if Rav Weissmandl knew this, but by the way, they later did a computer search of the Torah, and they found that the only place in the Torah where you find a phenomenon like this is right here. So we can ask ourselves, well, look, if it's only right here, maybe the background information has something to do with this little code we sort of just found here. Does anyone know where did what's that?
Did he live in Mitzrayim?
Yeah, where did Rambam spend most of his life? In Egypt. So here we have the Rambam found in an area where it's talking about Egypt. Now another thing too, he looked a little further, and what did he find? This is talking about the very first Pesach sacrifice in human history, and it says on Arba Eser Yom L'Chodesh Hazeh, on the 14th day of that month, it's talking about taking a Pesach offering. Does anyone know in Hebrew, when does Pesach come out on? What month? In spring, what month? Anyone know the month? Nisan. That happens to be the Rambam's birthday. So what do we have? We have the Rambam. The whole background is Egypt, and we have his birthday. Then Rav Weissmandl decided, you know what? I'm going to look for the Rambam's most famous book, possibly the most famous book in Jewish history. It's a book called the Mishnah Torah, which basically goes into detail of the 613 mitzvahs. So he decided to look for the word Mishnah, and what did he find? He found overlaying the Rambam's name, we found the word Mishnah, again, at a 50-letter skip, so we have over here, Mishnah. And then, down here, he found the word Torah, again at a 50-letter skip. So what do we have? We have the Rambam, we have his most famous book, and again, we have his birthday, and the whole background is where he spent most of his life. However, there's something that bothered him about this. Anyone know what bothered him about it? Look, the book is not called Mishnah Torah. The book's called Mishnah Torah. What's the distance between Mishnah and between Torah? So he got a little curious, and he counted the letters between Mishnah and Torah. Anyone want to guess how many letters there are between those two words? There are 613 letters, which, by the way, is the subject of the book.